Okay, the prince just became one of my favorite characters. This iteration of him, anyway. This is the eight. This is a review of episode 18 of Vinland Saga. Spoiler alert. Very interesting episode. It started out obviously with Thorkel and Thorfinn in a battle. We also left. I think his name is Bjorn. Oh God, I'm terrible with these names. The Askeladd's second in command had eaten mushroom, and I'll just say he made quick work of all the men that were over there trying to stop him from taking the prince. But the battles didn't have a whole lot to do with what was going on in this episode. This was a very cerebral, very existential episode, which is really great. I loved it. Side note, I'm curious, has anybody ever counted how many deaths happen in Vinland Saga? Because a few happened in this one, but nowhere near what we usually have to deal with. And that was nice. I didn't have to cover my eyes so much from the bloodshed. But I'm just curious. Somebody has to have counted at some point, by episode through the series. I really don't want to look right now because I don't want any kind of spoiler alerts for me because I want to see the series unfold without knowing too much. I'm just curious if anybody ever done that. I can't imagine it hasn't been done because Vinland Saga has a ton of death, which may be common to anime. I'm not sure. Again, this is the first anime I've ever watched. Yes, at 49, this is the first anime I've ever watched. But at any rate, so Thor, Cal, and Thorfinn they're fighting. And of course, Thor Cal can't catch Thorfinn. He's too fast. Thorfinn is slicing and dicing him, death by a thousand cuts. He's cutting him up really good, but he's not cutting deep enough to do lasting damage to stop him, so that he can get inside and kill him. Because he is trying to kill him. Again, Thor Cal mentions Thorfinn's dad, Thor's, and Thor Cal offers to tell Thorfinn more about his father and their relationship, Thor Cal and Thor's relationship, if Thorfinn entertains him, as he says. So they keep fighting. And at one point, Thorkel stops and he asks Thorfinn what is a warrior. And this is around the same time another conversation is happening with the priest, the drunk priest, and who is still around, and the prince, where they're debating what is love. So it's a very interesting juxtaposition between the two conversations. Thorfinn gets stunned. He doesn't know what love is. Thorkel tells him, not love, I'm sorry. He doesn't know what a warrior is. He couldn't answer the question. Thorkel tells him, don't feel bad. I didn't know either. He feels like it was a trick by Thorkel, and he goes crazy and attacks him again. But it wasn't really a trick, I don't think. Thorkel seems to be having a really serious, deep conversation with Thorfinn as they fight to the death. And he has a lot of respect for warriors, just like Askeladd. As a matter of fact, the men start laughing because Thorfinn is just like basically, he's like, if you're gonna tell me about my father, I'll keep fighting you, but I'm gonna ease off so I don't kill you, so you can finish telling me. Men start laughing. Thorkel takes his axe and I'm pretty sure he killed the guy. Bam, right at the top of the head, dropped him. And he's like, don't laugh at this guy. He's a real warrior. He deserves my respect. So very similar to Askeladd's mindset of warriors when he was talking about Thor's. But they continue their conversation, and it basically then they start fighting again, and Thorkel does this move where he spits snow, or not spits, but he kicks snow and dirt in Thorfinn's face, but he uses the momentum of the kick, and he uses his legs and kicks out, and he ends up sailing way high up in the air. You know, you just got to assume Thorkel's that strong that he could sail like a ridiculous high above the trees. He ends up falling back down in the trees. And he's face down. That's where you end Thorfinn. And Thorfinn's not dead because Thorfinn dies. I'm going to quit watching Vinland Saga. But Thorfinn's down, and that's how that scene ends. As far as the prince has a dream about Ragnar, where Ragnar basically comes in his dream to say goodbye to the prince. After that, he and the priest have a conversation while the men are fighting Bjorn, I think his name is again, with the mushroom. He was eating the mushroom and is going crazy on everybody. And they're debating what love is. And the priest tells the prince that what Ragnar had for him wasn't love. It was, he called it discrimination. because he basically chose he chose to love the prince above everybody else, even himself. Um, and they come to the conclusion that, you know, snow is love, sunlight is love, trees are love, because they don't discriminate, you know. And the prince and the priest even says, in death we love, because we don't complain, and we our bodies decompose and feed the grass and feed other animals, and there's no complaints, and we just allow whatever to happen. It's a very interesting way of seeing, of understanding love. Um, and again, it was a very existential episode. It was very fun, not fun, but interesting to contemplate what they were talking about. What is a warrior? What is love? Um, and a nice reprieve from blood and guts. Um, but yeah, it was a really interesting episode. That scene ended. The Bjorn had killed everybody. He was still in his monstrous state, and very calmly, the priest is like, "Probably be better if you weren't here," because he's still rampaging. So the prince gets up, goes over to him, and basically gives him this speech about, you know, you're a monster. You need to stop killing, and you know, and he hugs him and he brings him out of his state. And he's got all these wounds. You know, he's got like 3 things stuck in him, or 2, I think. And another guy comes and stabs him, knocks him over to save the prince. And the prince takes over. And the prince gets all badass. It's really a pretty cool scene. He basically is like, look, all these fights and wars are pointless. You all don't understand what love is. My job as the king, the future king, is to give your life meaning. He basically tells God, we lost love when, I guess they show this apple, so I'm assuming it's talking about from a Christian perspective, when even Adam ate the apple in the Bible to gain knowledge, and they ended up being in sin, and that caused sin to filter through the rest of humanity. So in the prince's eyes, he's like, we're all lost forever. We'll never be redeemed. You know, so if you're not going to give me salvation, basically, I'm going to go get it myself. And it's a really cool scene. And he's basically like, as the king, it's my job to give purpose to your life and meaning to your life and even your death. So he commands he commands the priest to heal, to not heal, but to treat the wounds of Bjorn, who is sane again. He commands the guy who attacked Bjorn out of nowhere to help. And then the prince is going off to, oh man, he was going off to do something I can't remember, but he's coming back because they were like, don't run away, we need you to give to Thorkel to basically save the men's lives. And they're like, he's like, you know, I'm coming back, I'm going back to where Thorkel is. He's basically like, I'm going back because I need his sled to transport the wounded man. I mean, he is like basically like, Thorkel's gonna do what I tell him to do too. It's gonna be really interesting to see how that works out, because the men are kind of mindless drones going around fighting, but Thorkel has got some sense about him. Thorkel, Thorfinn, Askeladd, even Bjorn to a point, they are not just mindless warriors. They are actually thinkers. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out, especially with them already wanting to use the prince for leverage, and to see that he actually has a mind for himself. The whole reason Askeladd killed Ragnar in the first place was to get this out of the prince. He understood that the prince was never going to be become a man, his own man, if he had Ragnar there. So we're watching Askeladd's plan work out perfectly, which is ironic because Askeladd is watching the fight between Thorfinn and Thorkel, and he says, for the first time, I don't have a plan. And ironically, his plan to kill Ragnar to get the prince to grow up worked. So very deep episode, very interesting episode, very entertaining episode. I really enjoyed this episode. So we'll see what happens in episode 19.